Hello and welcome to Ask an Expert. My name is Luminara Serdar. I'm the creator and producer of the Autism Recovery Telesummit. I'm an autism recovery expert, nutritionist, and holistic healer. You can find information and resources at my website, autismtransformed.com. And if you'd like to receive offers and possibilities for helping your child or the kids you work with, because maybe you're a therapist or work with autistic kids, be sure to get on my mailing list if you're not already. And you can do that by going to my website and just entering your email and name. And in the next several weeks, I'll be sharing the nuggets of information I learned at the Generation Rescue Autism Education Summit, which was in Dallas a couple of weeks ago. And I'll soon be announcing the Awaken to Autism Telesummit, where I'm being interviewed, and that will air in early November. Today, I am so pleased to have as our expert Anne Evans, who is a molecular biologist by training with a master's degree in biomedical communications. She's collaborated on the Pediatric Handbook for the University of Texas System Medical Schools. She was publications and marketing manager for 2 global biotech firms, and then she discovered the realm of energy medicine in the spring of 2001. Not only did she completely recover her daughter from autism, but she became the author of the triple award-winning book, Beating Autism. Anne coordinates the largest alternative autism support group in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area, and was a member of the Mothers Determined panel for Autism One in 2016, just this past May. Anne's office is in Annapolis, Maryland, where she coaches, encourages, and recovers her clients daily. You can find her on her website. It's Anne M. Evans, A-N-N-E-M, like Mary Evans, EVANS.com, and I'll type that into the chat box as well. And her Facebook page is Autism Treated and Cured. So I'm going to cut and paste both of those and put them in the chat box. And I want to say welcome, Anne. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, so why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the energy medicine you use? It's very, we do the same thing in some ways, but you do some other different things. So tell us a little bit about that, and then how that helped your daughter.
Well, energy medicine is just a really broad term for a lot of different varieties of medicine. Many things fall into it: acupuncture, acupressure, Reiki, NeuroModulation Technique, Nambudripad's Allergy Elimination Technique, field control therapy, all the forms of homeopathy. These are all differing forms of energy medicine. And energy medicine is a step beyond chemical medicine. This is a step beyond pharmaceuticals. Rather than dealing with chemical mechanisms, you're dealing with the actual resonance frequency of the molecules. You're dealing with the positive and negative charges of the molecules. So we used 3 different types in combination to recover our daughter: Nambudripad's Allergy Elimination Technique, NeuroModulation Technique, and field control therapy were used in conjunction. She started with an ATAC. For those who are unfamiliar with the ATAC is the Autism Test of Symptoms, developed by Dr. Bernard Rimland at the Autism Research Institute many decades ago. And her ATAC started somewhere around 103 to 105, and we took her to a 0 in 3 years. Which is about 2 or 3 times as fast as most people. Yes.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you want to say some keys about how that happened and energy methods?
Well, it was pretty amazing. She was born in 95. And for those of you who haven't seen the cover of my book, I am going to do a little share screen here. There she is. Let's start here. Uh-oh, he won't let me. Just a moment. There we go. Here she is, fall of 1999. And we are at a pumpkin patch.
I'm not seeing it, Anne.
You're not seeing it?
No. I'm seeing your folder.
Oops. Well,
But you're seeing it.
I'm seeing it.
Okay. I have a suggestion. Maybe get out of the screen share.
Okay.
Make sure you open it and then screen share. I don't know. It's just an idea. If other people are seeing it, can you type yes into the chat box? Or no? Just type yes or no so we know if you're seeing it. No. Okay. Thank you.
You're not seeing it. Okay.
Oh, well, one person. Okay. Well, technical challenge.
We love our technology, except when it doesn't work for us.
Exactly.
Now, can people see it?
Mm-mm. No, we just see an open folder.
Okay.
So let's go out of the screen share and then
okay.
You can open it on your computer, because I saw the picture of your book cover earlier when you shared.
Right.
Screen.
Right, because I have so many things to share. I hope I can make this work.
Okay.
So in fall of 1999, we started getting calls from the preschool teacher, and she would ask questions like, what does the pediatrician say about her hearing? What does the pediatrician say about her gait? What does the pediatrician say about her social interaction? All of these questions. And she kept shuffling me off to the pediatrician. And finally...
Excuse me, can you go out of the screen share so that we can see your beautiful face? Go to the top and options and go out of the... Because we're not seeing the picture.
I don't know how... Oh, stop share.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
So by December of 1999, the preschool teacher called my husband and I into her office, and she started spouting off all of these issues our daughter was having, and she kept talking about a repetitive speech pattern. And finally, I said, why do you keep asking about a repetitive speech pattern? See, I wasn't seeing the symptoms at home that she was seeing at school. So it was a very different environment in the classroom than it was in our household. Mm-hmm. And she was a completely different child. And I'll explain how that works energetically soon. So finally I said to her, why are you talking about this repetitive speech pattern? And she leaned forward on her desk and she said, well, have you ever seen the movie Rain Man? She was telling me to my face that my child was Rain Man.
Oh, wow.
So hindsight is 2020. Now I'm happy that she did this because it woke me up and it pulled me out of any kind of state of denial I might have been in, because other issues began to surface. Pretty soon she started breaking out in hives. Shortly after that, she began vomiting everything she ate. So in addition to all the behavioral symptoms, there was this whole set of physical symptoms on top of it. But in 1999, Andrew Wakefield had just published, and Karen Ceruzzi's book was out about the mercury. So I started researching mercury. I went to the pediatrician. The pediatrician said there's information in the medical literature to imply the MMR might be problematic. So I'm not going to inoculate her with the MMR any longer.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. Yes, he was on top of it. So he stopped inoculating her with MMR. Now, he did give her the varicella. But after that, I discovered about the diet, and we began the gluten-free, dairy-free. She needed salicylate-free as well. So we were doing the fine gold. We went all organic. And we sort of walked a fine line. It was like being on a tightrope for about a year, trying to keep her balanced, keep her from throwing up, keep her from breaking out, keeping her focused, just with diet alone. She did improve, but it wasn't the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, it wasn't the answer. I needed something more. So I began searching, and someone handed me a book, and it explained this therapy called NAET, and I read all of the information about the immune system, the immunology of it, the microbiology of it, and then there was this section all about energy. So I absorbed everything that had to do with microbiology, and I thought the rest of it was a balderdash. I had no idea about energy medicine at that time, so I shelved the book and forgot about it.
Wow.
So a year later, I had run into a girlfriend at the grocery store. I hadn't seen her in a year, and then I ran into her 3 times in 1 week. And I said, oh, I better listen. There's too many coincidences. So I said, would you like to go for a cup of coffee? And she said yes. And we went and sat down and had a cup of coffee, and she started telling me all about her son. Now, I knew her son had been on a special diet, but I knew nothing about his issues, absolutely nothing. And she started to talk to me about this man who did this thing called NAET and how her son was making this fabulous recovery. And she handed me his card. And the rest is history. I mean, he saw my daughter and he started treating for the basic nutritional elements. Then he treated for the vaccines. And then he got into field control therapy.
Okay, can I ask you a question at this point? When you say he treated for, can you just elaborate a little bit on what the treatment?
What a treatment is.
Yeah.
Yes. This is where I really need to show some pictures.
Okay, bring the picture up on your computer and then let's share your screen. See if it works that way.
Okay.
And by the way, while you're doing that, I'll tell everyone we've got a full house here, and this will be available later. It's recorded, so it will be available later. You can share with your friends and your groups and whoever you want to. So, yeah.
Okay, let's begin just sharing this much. I'll see if I can get it to work.
There we go.
Can you see the vials?
Yes.
Can you see two vial pictures or just one?
One picture with the vials in the case and a few outside of it.
Okay. And these have emotions on them: poor concentration, anger, anxiety, a few other things. With energy medicine, the way that I learned it and the way we practice it is that the energetic frequency of a substance, it can be a physical substance or an emotion, it can be animal, vegetable, or mineral, and the resonance frequency can be harnessed and digitized in a computer, and then the digitized resonance frequency can be transferred into distilled water. Now, water will hold a memory of everything that's ever passed through it. This was discovered by Jacques Benveniste. He was a French immunologist. He died in the 1980s, but his research was published in Nature magazine in the 80s. And he is the one who verified homeopathy, basically, because homeopathy is resonance frequencies captured in a substrate, frequently water.
Can you say his name again? Who the guy was?
Jacques Benveniste.
Okay, thank you.
And since you have a resonance frequency that is in water, you can take that frequency and you can actually hold the vial. And then you can do an acupressure treatment on very specific points around the body. Continue holding the vial. For a child, the children hold them for about 20 minutes, adults for about 40. And then the body, the energy will travel through the meridians in the body. And then the body will open up, the cells will unlock, and the stagnated, locked up substance will release. and it will pass out through the normal pathways, the urine and the feces, and then the child is no longer sensitive to that substance. That's how NAET works, and that's how the forms of homeopathy all work.
Thank you. That was an excellent explanation.
Good. Okay. So with our daughter specifically, we treated for all the basic nutritional elements, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and proteins. And then we went through and treated for all the different vaccines, because the immune system becomes very confused. And I find in my own office that the children's immune systems are so confused that they cannot fight off secondary pathogens. And then they become infected with secondary things like a mutated form of strep, or I find Lyme disease very frequently, or maybe some form of candida is very common. So then I treat energetically for all of those once the immune system is straightened out. And then the children pass things out through their, excuse me for being graphic, they pass things out through the feces, and the parents come in and report very smelly bowel movements, and the child gets healthier and healthier and healthier.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so you mentioned Nambudripad's allergy elimination technique, NeuroModulation technique, and field control therapy. So can you share like what's the common element or how they're different?
Okay. I'd like to show some more pictures if I can, and that will help us to help me to okay.
Yeah. Oh, there they are. Good.
Can you see it? It's a blue background with heavy metals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you'll notice there's a platform that the vials are resting in.
Mm-hmm.
The platform, being metal, resonates the vials at a higher frequency. And then there's a cord, a wire, connected to a small handle. And the client holds the handle. And then we put in vials that will resonate individual tissues of the body. So I have vials for every tissue in the body. In field control therapy, the creator, his name is Savly Yurkovsky, and he is a cardiologist originally from the University of Moscow. Today he is in New York. He got together with Dr. William Tiller, who was the former chairman of the Material Science Department at Stanford University. And the two of them worked out a mathematical algorithm for the levels of stress of every single tissue in the body. And you can buy whole kits that have the stress levels mapped out, and they're saved in the vials. The resonance frequency of the stress level is saved within the vials. So I can resonate the whole body. I can resonate just the head. I can resonate the brain, the Wernicke's region, the Broca's region, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the corpus callosum, the amygdala. I can resonate each and every tissue of the brain individually. And then I can go in and find specifically what's disturbing it by resonating heavy metals, fluoride, chlorine, pesticides, herbicides, all the environmental toxins, you name it. And then I can add a lymph drainage vial, and I could do the acupressure treatment on the body, and all of that will detoxify and drain right out of the brain.
Wow.
So that's how field control therapy works. Now, the way that Savliukovsky does it, he does it homeopathically. He resonates all the tissues, and then he comes up with vials of drops. And the client takes the drops home and uses the homeopathic drops, which I find is a little bit slower. My method's a little bit faster, that's all.
So when they come in and they hold this, you're doing them all at once?
What I do is, for those who are not familiar, there's something called muscle response testing. And muscle response testing is based on the fact that when your body comes into contact with a substance that is deleterious, that a substance that is harmful to it, the muscles and the organs will go weak. So you can develop a little muscle test for all the different substances that will show you an area of weakness. So I test things one at a time, and then I test them together to make sure that sometimes a resonance frequency can counteract another resonance frequency, and you could go strong. So we have to make sure that the client is what we call weak for all the frequencies together. And then we can treat, and I can pull out hundreds of substances at one time.
Okay, great, thank you. So my understanding of NAET is that you do one substance at a time. So it seems like this one you can do as many as you can do.
Exactly. You can do as many as you can do, and because of the stress levels, you can do it in as many layers as you want. The first stress level is the cellular membrane. The second stress level will be the cytoplasm. The third stress level will be the membranes of the mitochondria and the organelles, the endoplasmic reticulum, and then you'll get down to the fifth and sixth stress level, and you're getting inside the DNA of the cell, and you're pulling out toxins that are damaging the DNA. That's why you can get a complete recovery.
Thank you. Wow. And so we see a difference with the NAET and the thought field. And can you speak to how the NMT, the neuromodulation technique, which is also what I do,
Right.
how that fits in?
Neuromodulation technique is not unlike NAET and field control therapy, but we're not working with vials. You have all the pathways of the body digitized on a computer, and there's a small antenna, and the antenna can send the wavelength frequency directly to the client, and it eliminates the vials, which is fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is awesome. Now, do you have any more photos or images or anything you want to say before we open?
Yes, I have some wonderful things I want to show you. So
Okay.
If everybody will be patient for a minute, I will see if I can bring up something else. Okay, almost there. I want to bring up both of these so you can see two at once. Okay. Okay, can you see, what can you see now?
Looks like a retina from an eye.
Okay, what does the top say?
Right retina, 2001.
2001, okay. So this is the retina of my daughter's eye in 2001. And for those who are not familiar, this whitish circle at the top is the optic nerve, which goes from the retina in the back of the eyeball back to the visual cortex in the back of the head. Then the red lines are all the arteries that are feeding the eye. Then you'll see these long white strands, these stringy strands, and down here at the bottom there is a triangle of white stringy strands. So using field control therapy and resonating the tissues of my daughter, the doctor who healed my daughter, his name was Ross Stark. Ross found toxoplasmosis in her eyeball. She had toxoplasmosis in the optic nerve and in the visual cortex of her eye. And it was making her horribly hyperactive, dyslexic. She couldn't focus or concentrate. And we used no antibiotics to heal her. We used exclusively energy, nothing else. So let me see if I can bring forth the other picture.
So just to say toxoplasmosis, that would be like a mycoplasma, an infection.
It is a parasitic protozoa.
Okay.
So she had a protozoa beyond the blood-brain barrier. And this is what conventional medicine cannot treat. They have antibiotics to kill bacteria, but they have no way of crossing the blood-brain barrier and getting rid of a parasite. And when you take an antibiotic, it's a shotgun approach. You are killing every kind of bacteria. But when you use energy medicine, you're resonating just that particular pathogen. And you're boosting the body's own natural immune system to go after the pathogen and kill it. So it's not a shotgun approach. It's far more specific. And that rescues the tissues. You're not damaging any tissues that way. So let's see if you all, now can you see this one?
Wow, looks beautiful.
Yes, down at the bottom, it's completely clear. That large triangle of white, stringy, milky stuff is all gone. And this is 2 years. The first one was spring of 2001, and this is spring of 2003. So with energy medicine, we removed a parasitic protozoa from beyond the blood-brain barrier in about 3 years. We got it all out and completely cured a mentally ill child.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
That's fantastic. And people are asking questions, and if there's time for questions. So does that make sense to jump over to questions now?
Sure.
Anything else you want to say? Okay. Yeah, so if you all would either type in your message or you can unmute yourself. Okay, someone typed in, what's the name of this person who healed your daughter? I think Ross Stark.
Ross Stark. It was a lovely man. Unfortunately, he passed away in September of 2014, and I miss him very, very much. But I went ahead and learned all of his techniques and got certified. And so I'm doing the same thing now. Yeah. Yeah,
I was going to say the really great thing is that there are people now, not just you and me, who do these kind of energy modalities, but there's a lot of practitioners now.
Yes.
And maybe a more practical question for you is, you know, you're in Annapolis and you see people. Do you also work with distance clients, and how would you do that?
I do work with this is where the energy starts to get really fun. I do work with distance clients. I take them via Skype and I teach them the points on the body, but then they need the contents of the vials. Well, how do they get the contents of the vials? Well, the energy is really exciting here. The written word carries the same resonance frequency as the substance. So we love the word. So I type up formulas for my clients. I email them out. They print out the email. They cut out the written word. They put it next to their skin. They treat the acupressure points. And they have the same level of recovery at home, doing it all themselves, that they would get if they came into my office.
That's awesome.
I treat people all over the world.
That's awesome. I talked to another mom who, she was a client of mine, and we're doing NMT for her son, and she used the same thing. She would use words from the homeopathic vials or something, and she was telling me how great that was. Wow, thank you. I am going to look at another. So another question is, well, it's a series of questions. So how long did the healing take? And does your daughter need the energy treatment from time to time or for other health issues as well?
Oh, okay. Let me put some perspective on this. My daughter turns 21 tomorrow.
Ooh.
She graduates college in December. She's completely neurotypical. She, after we finished removing all the pathogens, then we treated her for all the foods that were making her sick. And once the body has opened up and released stagnated levels of foods and artificial ingredients and pesticides and herbicides, then the body's cleaned out. So you don't get any reactions anymore. So she's a completely neurotypical individual now, and she's just out in the world living her own life. She's getting her degree in biology. She's fluent in Mandarin Chinese. She's already looked at the University of Shanghai, and she's going to go to medical school there and study advanced forms of energy medicine and bring it all back to the United States.
Wow, awesome. And I think I heard you say earlier that it took 3 years for your daughter from the time you started working with the energy medicine?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Now, but somebody asked, does she periodically still need a treatment? You know, we all do.
Exactly.
We come into exposure of all kinds of things all the time, and we start to feel a little run down, or maybe she's had too many exams in 1 week. So then she'll do a treatment on herself to boost herself energetically. Yes.
Right.
So
I wanted to say that stress is assaulting us all the time, you know, and it was interesting that you had those vials of emotions. And I mean, come on, do we all feel emotions? Do we, you know, we're human. We go through that.
Yes.
Okay. So someone asked, what about people who are currently on medications or who have impaired detoxification pathways?
Oh, lovely. Good question. Wow. Okay, I have many clients who are currently on medications. I work very successfully with people who suffer from depression. And there are a series of things to balance out in the case of depression, and balancing sugars, balancing hormones, balancing neurotransmitters. And when these things are cleared, I find that my clients cut back on the medications, doing it in conjunction with their doctors. I never, ever, ever tell anybody to go off of medications cold turkey. I never do that. It's a slow come down off of it. But once the neurotransmitters start to balance out, people find they don't need their medications quite so much. And that's really beneficial to cut back.
Yeah.
There was a second half of that question. What was the other half?
Oh boy, I'm scrolling through the other questions. Let me get.
Okay.
Impaired detoxification pathways. Will it work on people with impaired detoxification?
Once you start to do the work, the first thing you would do is repair the detoxification pathways. That would be the first step.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my method too. You have to be able to eliminate.
Right.
Okay. I have a teen who's struggling. This is from Keat. I have a teen who's struggling in school. After you healed your daughter, did she need tutoring, etc., to help her catch up? Your daughter sounds amazing.
She did need tutoring. You can see the books behind me. We homeschooled. It was so frustrating dealing with teachers. I just pulled her out, and it was the best of all possible worlds. I homeschooled her and found a tutor at the same time. The mercury had affected the right side of her body so severely, she had no fine motor skills. She couldn't hold a pencil, and she couldn't write. So she could not produce a product, so to speak. And the first thing the tutor did was get her on the computer. So we got her typing. And once she taught her some typing skills, all of a sudden, little stories started coming out and she could write. So reading was cured fairly rapidly once the toxoplasmosis, once the immune system was strengthened enough to start to kill off the toxoplasmosis. Her dyslexia vanished. So she recovered her education in about 18 months. she was caught up?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question because, we have all these ways to heal the body, but, if your child isn't healed till they're 7 or 8 or 9 or however old, and they're still at a 3-year-old or 4-year-old level, there are things you need to do. And I was actually talking to Mary Coyle about this at the autism conference I went to, and there's definitely different training things, but that's a topic for another time. But it's not like they instantly know everything that they should at their age, right? There's work.
There's work, yeah.
I want to pose the questions that Corrine emailed me. So can the method help with allergies, asthma, cognition, sensory anxiety?
Well, that's exactly what it originally was made for. It's Nambudripad's Allergy Elimination Technique.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So people with severe allergies, even anaphylaxis, can make full recoveries using these techniques. Some of the early studies, in fact, if you go to my website, AnnMEvans.com, there is a bar for scientific research, and it gives all the background studies, and peanut allergies and anaphylaxis and all of the allergies studies are included there. And I'm very, very excited now because Dr. Devi is working on a global autism study, which is not getting enough attention. She's got 1,200 children in this study, and it's going to be mind-blowing when it's finished. Also, Dr. William Tiller is doing a global autism study, but it's very different. It's a remote healing study, which sounds very, very exciting. I can't wait for that one.
Excellent. Thank you. So can this also help with epilepsies and seizures? Let me see. So a lot of different circumstances, epilepsy and seizures. Can you speak to that first?
The doctor who healed my daughter did heal epilepsy and seizures, but it was a slower process. And it had a great deal to do with diet. Apparently, there was too much sugar in the diet, and the insulin was cutting off norepinephrine to the brain. So you have to balance out those pathways, and you have to be absolutely certain that the child is not exposed to carbohydrates for the entire duration of the recovery period. Understand, I kept my daughter on a carbohydrate-free diet until the parasites were completely gone. Then we put foods back at the end, and we healed all the allergies at the end. So it was many, many years staying on the diet while we underwent the therapy. So it's the same way with the epilepsy, and you can rebalance the neurotransmitters, yes.
Thank you. That's really useful. And what about a teen who has a medical device implanted? Let's see, the device gives off intermittent electrical pulses in an attempt to control seizures.
Oh, I'm going to be completely honest. That one I'm not familiar with, and I wouldn't give a good answer for that. I want to be fair.
Okay, great. Thank you. And it can help with other issues, like not just with autism type stuff, but diabetes, heart, arthritis, etc. for like aging people.
For aging, yes. I do have actually several aging clients, and we find that if you study Chinese medicine, diabetes is very common, but diabetes in Western medicine is considered a problem with the pancreas. But in Chinese medicine, it's considered a problem with the liver. The qi flows from the liver to the pancreas, and if the liver is toxic, the qi will stop to flow. So you have to detoxify the liver and then promote the qi in the pancreas, and that will help with diabetes. I also find that a great many elderly people they've picked up pathogens in life. We go along and we pick things up. That's part of living life. So a great many of them have secondary pathogens like Lyme disease that have to be detoxed out.
Thank you. I find that a lot, that, we do pick up things, and with stress, our immune systems get run down, and so they don't function as well. So I feel like a lot of this comes down to the immune system functioning well, keeping things out, and keeping, straight with what the body tissues are so it doesn't attack body tissues, because autoimmunity is huge these days.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to try and there's a bunch more questions. I'm going to try and get through. How many NAET treatments do you think are needed, or does that vary for a person?
With my practice and in my experience healing my child both, I do about a dozen NAET treatments for all of the basic nutritional elements first, because I want to get the child as healthy as possible before we begin the detox. When you begin detoxing things like heavy metals, you can latch on to trace minerals and pull those out of the body. And these children are deficient in trace minerals, so you don't want to do that. So you have to make certain that they're absorbing the nutrition that they need first. So I do proteins, vitamins, minerals, and all the amino acids, and that's about a dozen or so treatments before I launch into the vaccines. And let me show you another. I want to show you this picture because it's very exciting. So give me just a second. Okay. And you've got to see how this one works. Can you see this picture?
Yes, the tooth.
This child is 4 years old. She was so malnourished that her teeth were disintegrating. You'll notice, if you can see my cursor, her front teeth were just breaking off. They were shattering. But then, after working with me, she could absorb minerals. And you'll notice there is white enamel that is now growing over top of the fractured teeth. She was literally regrowing her teeth.
Wow.
So her mother was very excited, very, very excited. And the pediatrician who saw it couldn't believe his eyes.
I bet. Excellent. Well, there was another question. How does the energy or the fields, how does it impact genetic SNPs?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. The best way I can answer that is through field control therapy. There are vials in the advanced master kits for field control therapy that are DNA vials. But you have to work through the layers. When you get to the genetic material, it's going to be at the center. So you have to work through the outer layers and detox those. And then you can resonate the DNA. Mm-hmm. I actually have one client who has a genetic issue. She has Angelman syndrome. And her mother has had NeuroModulation Technique done to lift one layer of energetic dealing with her DNA. And then she was going to have field control therapy done so that we can address the DNA a second time. So you can resonate the DNA, yes.
Thank you. I have a couple of people asking, how can you get certified? How can you learn this?
Well, at first you need a little money. It's not cheap. And you can go to the NAET website, NAET.com, and they have a link for practitioners. And you just click on that, and it gives you all the info. For field control therapy, you go to Yurkovsky.com. Yurkovsky, Yurkovsky.com. That's field control. And then neuromodulation technique is nmt.md, I think, yeah.
Okay, there. Okay, I lost my place in the questions because I typed that in. Let me see. Thank you for that. That's awesome. SNPs, let's see. Oh, so asking how long it took to clear mercury.
Oh, how long it took to clear mercury. Oh, I have the best videos for this, but I haven't brought them up. It took about 3 or 4 months for the first round, okay? Now understand, when you're doing field control therapy, you're working in stages progressively. We started working on the vaccines with my daughter in, I'm thinking April, May, or June. I think June of 2001. And I had done a packed red blood cell analysis. It was a red cell elements test run by Doctors Data in St. Charles, Illinois. And it showed that her mercury level was at double the adult toxic dose at age 5. Then the practitioner who was working on her, Ross Stark, treated her not for mercury. He treated her for the vaccines. He did MMR and DPT and polio, and he did a half a dozen vaccines. And by August, we went back and retested the red blood cells. See, the red cell elements test isn't like the blood tests you get at Quest Diagnostics. Those are serum level tests. The test we did centrifuged down the blood, poured off the serum, and analyzed what the platelets were carrying on the inside. And in just about 3 months, treating only for the vaccines, we reduced her mercury 80%. Wow.
That's fantastic. So her body was really getting rid of it.
Yes.
And someone, and this next question goes in, how do you know there's progress with the treatment? You knew because not only were you testing, but you just saw the difference in behaviors, correct?
I saw the difference in behaviors, and I saw the individual treatment reactions. Her body reacted to the treatments. Let's say we did a treatment just for toxoplasmosis. Well, within 24 hours, her body would raise a fever. She would actually get a fever, and it would start to burn out the toxoplasmosis. And I remember calling the doctor panicking, saying, her fever's 102 and climbing. What do I do? She can't take fever reducers. She couldn't take aspirin because she would bleed. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what to do as a parent. And he would say, put her in a bath with Epsom salts, lukewarm bath with Epsom salts. And that would open up the pores of her skin and detoxify out all of the toxoplasmosis. And it would reduce her fever down to about 99. So she would have a low-grade fever, and her body burned the toxoplasmosis right out of her system.
Thank you. Those fevers are so important. We immediately want to reduce them because we don't want our child to be in discomfort, but the fever is the body's natural way of what you say, burning out. Different things turn on in the body when we have a fever, and that really gets at the viruses and bacteria and stuff. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. My son is 11 and only slightly verbal with severe stimming and sensory issues. Will this treatment help him if I'm unable to have them done for a couple of years? Okay, so if she can't do it for a couple of years, would it still help?
It will be more difficult. It's easier the younger the child is. If you wait until after puberty, it grows more difficult. It does work. It still works. It's just a little slower, takes a little longer, but it does still work. And I have many children who are teens, and I have a young man who's 23, and I am seeing progress in him. He's been with me for 6 months, and he's far more verbal now than he was when he first came into my office. So yes, it does work. It's just a little slower.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And let's see, is this the same thing that you would use for Lyme disease and bipolar symptoms as well as food sensitivities? Would you keep them on the carbohydrate-free diet?
For Lyme disease and other pathogens, they do live on carbohydrates. So yes, you have to stay on the carbohydrate-free diet for the duration of the therapy until your immune system has the pathogen completely under control and you're symptom-free and you're free of spirochetes. The toxins are the things that usually give us the brain fog and the achy joints. As you're treating for pathogens, the pathogens will run away from the immune system. They'll run away from the macrophages. They'll run away from the killer T cells. So they go and they try to hide in areas of the body where there is limited blood flow. And that's the joints, and that's the brain. And that's why we get brain fog, and that's why we get achy joints. So we have to keep boosting the immune system to go after these pathogens and kill them and knock them out. But once that's done, then you treat for the carbohydrates and you relieve the stagnation that's in the body. Once we relieve the stagnation of the carbohydrates, then everything starts to function better. And you can eat, I say moderately. My daughter eats carbs at Christmas, Easter, her birthday. She does eat carbs, yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think we answered this. You were talking about young children. What about adults and duration of treatment? You said that it would take, you'd notice it takes a little longer. I see that as well. Do you diagnose the condition before you treat, or do you treat based on symptoms?
No, I diagnose. Treating just the symptoms, it doesn't give you the answer. No, you have to find out what the cause is, or you can't do the treatment. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so let's see. We did NAET for our son, but it required me as his surrogate because he had severe autism and could not do the right breathing while applying acupressure. We finally stopped NAET because we often didn't see much difference after those treatments. I wonder if using me as a surrogate could have affected the results.
I do not. I use surrogates for testing, but once I have the treatment worked out, then I treat the child directly, as long as they're over about 6 months. Under 6 months, I treat through the parent, have the parent hold the baby, and then treat the parent. But over 6 months, you can tap the back of an infant. And once they're about 2 or 3 years old, then you can start massaging the additional points on the hands and the head and the feet. So I do direct, yeah.
Okay.
And I want to say that that's the beauty of this therapy, is that you can do it on very small children, and you're not putting in chemicals like you would using conventional medicine. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Well, the funny thing is, not only can you do it on babies and small children and people who are nonverbal, but I've treated, I can't tell you how many different types of animals. I've treated my garden and my houseplants, and well, they don't have all the emotional stuff we have, so it's easier for them to respond. Yeah, so again, a couple of people asked, does it work on ADD, ADHD, and Asperger's? And I think the answer would be yes, because those are sort of milder
versions of the same thing. Yes.
Yeah. And can it work without making the diet changes?
I have some children, many children have difficulty with diet. Many children don't want to eat, or they're picky eaters, or when that happens, I treat right away for the particular foods that they're stuck on. Some kids eat nothing but French fries, so you have to treat French fries right away, just to make sure that everything is flushing out of the body. So yes, it's much, much more difficult if you are not doing the diet. You will see faster recovery by doing the diet. So I don't want people to kid themselves. You're going to spend a lot more money if you do not do the diet, because it'll take longer to get well.
Yeah, I want to say something to that too, is that think about what nature intended for us. Did nature intend us to go to the grocery store and buy food that's been processed 100 different ways, or 2 different ways, or 5 different ways, and put it in our bodies? Our bodies equipped for that. You know, so let's go back to the basics and think what was made for our bodies, and then maybe there can be some different choices in food. And I know it's hard because we're inundated with just with, you know, the marketing and everything. And really, I think to have the greatest success, you're going to just have to really change how you live in this society food-wise.
Yes. I'd like to say something in addition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spending a lot of time detoxing pesticides and herbicides out of children. And if you're eating processed grain products, you're putting those pesticides and herbicides right back in. So the whole idea is to get these things out. So you don't want to turn around and just put them back in again.
Thank you for that. Okay, so in order to consider doing distance treatments, can you please explain how the written word carries frequencies? Do you send vials or just the written word?
I send just the written word. And, you know, I'm going to say it. You really got to talk to a physicist to understand how that works. It has to do with just the wavelength of what it is, and I'm not a physicist. All I know is that it works. I've had many parents tell me that they've just taken that piece of paper, put it on their child. Now, mind you, the kids I see are nonverbal. Most of them are 7 or 8 years old, and they're still in diapers. So a lot of the mothers just take the written word and they stuff it down the diaper. They do the energetic treatment, and the next thing you know, their kids are, excuse me, I'm going to be graphic. Their kids are pooping worms right out of their body just from a piece of paper. So it works. It honestly works.
Well, I want to say one thing to that, what I like to say about the frequencies. Everything has an energetic signature to it. And I'm not a physicist either. And I think if we were to explain it, you probably wouldn't understand, because I don't even understand that. And I'm a science geek. I lost my train of thought, to be completely honest. Anyway, it was about the frequency. Everything has a frequency. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about it right now. Everything carries a frequency. I want to go try and get the last few questions. What about someone with adrenal insufficiency and fevers? If this child gets a fever, needs to have stress doses of hydrocortisone, is there a way to reduce the Lyme pathogens without the fever?
Oh, lovely. I think the first thing I would do is work on the adrenal insufficiency. I would immediately resonate the adrenal glands and the whole kidney area. And I would teach the parents how to energize the kidney meridian on a daily basis at home. So you can always have that energy circulating. And the beauty of energy is it actually regenerates tissue. It actually regrows. Like I showed you the little girl regrowing her teeth. You can regenerate those adrenal glands. So by massaging the points on the kidney meridian, you can boost the adrenals automatically. Then we want to resonate the adrenal glands and find out all the things that are disturbing it. So we would resonate the adrenal tissue. And then we would resonate all the environmental toxins that are possibilities that are disturbing it. Then add the lymph drainage and do an entire treatment and just pull the toxins out of the adrenal glands so that they can start to function again.
I think I want to say something after hearing you give that answer, is that it's not a simple thing. And recovering from autism is not a simple thing. We've already talked about toxins, you've talked about drainage, you've talked about giving the vibration to get the vaccines out, giving vibrations to get the tissues in several different layers, detox and working better. We've talked about changing the DNA. So as you can see, there's a lot of aspects to it. And I guess I just want to put out there that, one piece of paper isn't going to cure your child.
Right.
I just want to say it's still a complex and long process, yet less invasive, not invasive at all, actually, and sounds even simpler in some than to doing a lot of biomed. But did you guys even do the biomed? The certain nutrients you put in? You didn't.
The only thing I did was I had removed grains from her diet. So I supplemented with a good organic B complex to replace grains. I had taken dairy out of her diet, so I supplemented with a good organic calcium. So I only replaced the things I removed. I did not go through tons of prescription probiotics and all of that. No.
Thank you. Would you mind answering a few more questions?
Not at all.
Running over. With super ultra mega picky eaters, what can we do?
I know who's asking this question, and she's a doll. What can we do with super ultra mega picky eaters? We have to treat for what they're eating, and then we have to begin to treat everything else afterwards, but they will be stagnated on the things that they're actually eating. And this is not uncommon. Kids on the spectrum, when they're eating one thing specifically over and over and over again, that's usually the thing they're most addicted to. And that's usually the thing that's causing the basis of the problem. So that has to be treated right away.
Thank you. Let's see. And let's see. Do you do allergy tests and give clients the diet plan? Thank you so much. Lots of great info.
Okay.
Do you give the diet plan, or does someone else work with them on that?
Oh, no, I coach people on diet as well. I'm a certified children's nutrition specialist, and I do coach on diet, yes.
Okay, thank you. And should the therapy be used in conjunction with supplements, homeopathic? So, would people be using homeopathy at the same time as doing this?
I do a few things that way, very few. It's only in extreme cases that I would do that. For example, if I have a child who's working fairly well through the therapy, but there's something triggering that child, say, in the classroom, then I may give a few homeopathic drops to calm them in the classroom. Usually it's not necessary, but it would only be in addition to.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And you would figure out what those are.
Right.
Okay, excellent. I think I got through most of the really relevant questions. Someone asked about HBOT. Hyperbaric.
Yes, let me speak to that. Yes. HBOT, really, it's fabulous on the one hand. But in my experience, and I think it's excellent for the elderly. I think it's excellent for people who have superficial, like, say, skin issues, melanomas and things that have been removed. They need that high pressure, oxygenated environment to heal tissue. My experience with HBOT is that it overwhelms the system in a child that is very small and very fragile. It's too much, and it overwhelms the system. And I saw just a lot of hyperactivity that wasn't necessary, and it was stressful for the child. Stressful. It works very well in conjunction with acupressure. Let's say you do an acupressure treatment. You've got your resonance frequencies, your vials, your papers, whatever, for your formula. Then you do the energetic treatment and then put the child inside the hyperbaric chamber while they're holding their formula. You can make it detox twice as fast. But the treatment reactions that you see are very severe. And as a practitioner, I just don't like to see the treatment reaction so strong. The parents have to deal with it, and the teachers have to deal with it, and I prefer a gentler approach. Let me put it that way.
Excellent. I think we would all agree with that. 2 last questions. Would you stop seeing other practitioners and stop the tons of supplements, or can you do that in conjunction with what they're already doing?
I treat people for the nutritional elements that they need, so their body can absorb them from food. Your body should absorb everything it needs from its diet. We shouldn't need to spend mountains of money on nutritional supplements. So I do back off the supplements as we move through the nutritional treatments.
I want to just say one thing to that is that sometimes the diet, like especially with pickier eaters, sometimes the diet isn't giving them enough nutrition, and that's where I feel like it's very important to have whole food supplements. And there's a lot of good lines, and there's a ton of great, complete mineral and vitamin lines for autistic kids. There's lots and lots of brands.
But in addition to that, if you are using a supplement, you should be treated for the supplement.
Exactly.
And you should be energy tested for the supplement, because oftentimes people bring me bags and bags of supplements in my office, and I start to test them, and they're weak for every one of them. They can't.
Not getting in. Exactly.
Yeah.
I find the same thing. And so would you suggest that people stop seeing other practitioners?
I don't make any suggestions about people's other practitioners. People tend to use a variety of practitioners, and fairly shortly they'll see what's working and what's not working, and then they make their choices on their own.
Yeah, and I feel like also I work as a team with people's other practitioners, and like you said, different people have different values, and when they don't, people will let them go. So it's, yeah. And then the last thing is, for the heavy metals, does the energy treatment replace chelation?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The whole idea of DMSO and DMSA just scares me to no end. I never understood the concept of putting in a chemical to remove a chemical. And chemical chelation is very dangerous because you're not resonating any tissues. You're just grabbing onto the heavy metals and shifting them around the body. You could be grabbing onto trace minerals and pulling trace minerals out that the body needs to recover. Chemical chelation is just so dangerous. Energetic chelation is much, much safer, and it's much more specific. You're not latching on to just anything and pulling it out. Yes, it does replace it.
Yeah, and what would you say to tag on to that regarding zeolite, cilantro, chlorella with that? Because that's a type of chelation as well.
Right. But you're talking about herbals that, the reason things like cilantro work is because they pull mercury. Well, if they pull mercury, then they're growing in the soil, so they're pulling mercury up out of the soil. So if you're eating cilantro or drinking a cilantro tea, you're actually taking the mercury that's in the cilantro and you're putting it in your body. You're giving yourself more mercury. You're not removing it.
Have there been tests or studies that looked at cilantro?
Yes, there have been, and it's alarming to me. So there's no difference, because even if you're using an herbal, it's still functioning off the chemical as opposed to the energetic. So why use anything at all when you can just resonate the tissues and pull it out without using something?
Exactly. Well, thank you. I want to end it here because we're over time, and I appreciate everyone that stayed and everyone that's going to be listening to the recording, that you made it to the end. And I want to thank you so much, Anne.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this. The questions were great.
Yeah. Oh, there's one more thing I want to say, that if people would like to contact you and speak with you about a session or how you work, how would they best do that? AnneMEvans.com. It's Anne with an E. ANNE, M as in mother, Evans.com. And could they just use your contact page, or just give you a call, ring on the phone? And
yeah, my phone number is on the contact page. They can call me or they can email me, either one.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.